Morning, everyone. My name is Nathan Riley. I'm the Acting Associate Director for Residence Life with Simon Fraser University in the beautiful province of British Columbia. I am also the British Columbia representative on the board of directors and today's presenter for the tips and tricks attending the upcoming Northwest Annual Conference. Before moving forward, I do want to acknowledge that I am in my office today on the Burnaby campus of SFU. It is located on the unceded and traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, including the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Kikwitlam First Nations. I am also excited that we have a smaller group today because it gives the opportunity for this to be a more informal presentation. And I thought I'd start just by giving those of you on the call today a chance to introduce yourself. That way everyone kind of knows each other and we get a chance to, once we get into more of the Q&A, just feel a little bit more comfortable with the space. So happy to leave it up to all of you if you want to take turns introducing yourself. I'm not going to single anyone out because I know that can be a challenge as well.
Yeah, so I'm Becca Gold. I'm the Residence Life Coordinator here at Bellevue College in Washington, and I'm also our Professional Development Committee Chair.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelsey Murray. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Coordinator of Student Wellness and Survivor Advocacy at Linfield University, but I'm also the Oregon representative for Northwest NWACUHO.
I guess I can go. My name is Matthew Mund. Pronouns are he, him, his, from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here.
Hello, I'm Celeste Blythe, she, her, hers, and I am the Executive Assistant to the Director of Housing at University of Oregon in Eugene. Glad to be here. And
thank you everyone for the time today. It is again greatly appreciated that you're here and hopefully you get some tips and tricks on attending the upcoming Northwest Annual Conference, and hopefully I'm able to answer questions that you might have too as we move forward. So a little bit of an agenda for today's presentation. I don't expect it to take the full hour. I'm here to give some tips and tricks, but I also want to acknowledge that there is a wealth of experience in this call as well. So you might have tips and tricks on attending virtual conferences that you've experienced. And I want to create that space for you to be able to share that with each other. So I'm going to give an overview of the conference, really just kind of break down the days that we have for this year. I know an email went out from the board last week regarding changes. They might have been this week. I'm catching up from some vacation, full transparency. So an email has gone out about changes to the conference, and I'll highlight that here today. What to do if you're attending, some takeaways, and obviously that moment at the end for question and answer. But because we're a small group today, I think we can break it up that if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to use the raise the hand function in Zoom located in the toolbar at the bottom of the screen. And I'm happy to answer questions as we go. So as you may have seen in the email, the annual conference has been shrunk down to a one-day main event with some other events happening through February and March. So the annual conference is on Tuesday, March 1st. That's where a lot of the sessions for programming will come in, and the keynote speaker that I know the board is organizing. New to Northwest and the Affinity Social will both happen on February 28th. For those interested in attending, if you're new to Northwest, there's a social event scheduled for March 2nd, and there's the business meeting, which would also have been included in the conference, has been pushed to March 14th. So it's been broken up a little bit to acknowledge the very busy schedule that we all have, recognizing that dedicating 3 days in a row on Zoom might be a lot. So the board has broken it up to allow you the chance to attend and also balance the work that we have at our home institutions. If you have not registered yet for the conference, I'll post the link in the chat at the end. It is free for members of Northwest, which is very exciting. Also affiliate agreements with the RLPA, Procure, and there's one more association and I'm forgetting it. Hopefully I remember before the end of the session, but again, if they're affiliated with the associations outside of Northwest that have agreements with Northwest, they also can attend for free, which is exciting. Even though we're virtual, there's still opportunities to make connections. So I've highlighted a few ways that I would encourage individuals to get the most out of the conference. Virtual name tags have been done in the past. I know individuals have created their own virtual conferences as well. Even on Zoom, such as this, having your name and pronouns and the institution that you're representing is a great way to kind of demonstrate and show who you are, and also how people can reach out to you. Don't hesitate to start questions on the virtual world. This one's actually taken from when I attended an in-person conference prior to COVID-19. Starting conversations with other people don't need to stop just because we are virtual. The chat functions on many of the platforms, and I know the board will be using Zoom for the upcoming conference, is still a way you can connect with people, whether that is the New to Northwest, the Affinity Social or the social event. Even in sessions, if you come across a presenter that you're looking to connect with outside of the conference, you can always reach out to them in the chat function to really gather more information about them to continue that conversation after. There's the ability to still do a lot of the stuff we used to do in person in the virtual world. And sometimes we forget that, because it's very easy to get behind the screen, have the email open up on the other screen and get trapped in the email and not pay attention to what is going on in front of you. And we can avoid that. And there's ways that we can avoid that in the virtual world. Obviously, ask questions and learn about others' institutions. Again, still very possible in the virtual world. It's an ability to really make sure that that still happens, and obviously there will be opportunities presented for that. And I put remember your business cards, but it's essentially don't be shy to share your contact information. Most conferences, including Northwest, have the ability to have a directory of members attending the conference. Making sure that your virtual directory or virtual business card is updated on those sites is important. I know one of the first things that I do is I upload a profile picture for myself when I attend virtual conferences. That way there's a photo of myself, I update my contact information. That way, if people are looking to reach out, they see who I am, how they can reach me, and how they can continue the conversation after that virtual conference. So you're still doing the business card handouts if we were in person, except in the virtual world. The other thing I think it's important to know is it's important to learn and engage in these conferences. Keep an eye out for the schedule. It is coming. I know that the virtual arrangements committee is putting things together, and so is the programming committee. So when that schedule gets released in Northwest, take the time to explore it. It's similar to what we would do with the in-person booklets, guidebooks, stuff like that. We would pick the sessions that we want to go to, and there will still be those opportunities, but it's continuing to make sure that you're keeping an eye out and planning for it. And now that it is spread out a little bit more, it is condensed, really make intentional effort to attend the sessions and separate out the work from the day-to-day. Maybe don't have your email open if you're attending a session. And I'm bad at that. I've attended virtual conferences. Again, my email will be open on the other screen. I will be engaged with the email and not that much in the session. Not the best practice, but it's convenient. And we wouldn't have done it if we were in person. So there are ways we can minimize that as we attend virtual conferences. Continue to take notes as the sessions are going on, and obviously bring the learning back to the institution. So, and I think this is another thing that we've kind of gotten away from with the virtual conferences, is we attend, we kind of leave it at that, and we don't build that time to connect with colleagues back at our own home institution to share that learning that we took away. And that's still important, because these are sessions, this is knowledge being presented from colleagues in the field that you can bring back and see, does this work for us? Or are there elements or principles from the sessions that we want to bring back and include here? any questions so far? Any tips and tricks that you've done or gotten out of virtual conferences? I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I can only see minimal mini pictures. Don't like seeing mini pictures. What is the experience that you have attending virtual conferences, or what are some tips and tricks that maybe you have developed over the past 22 months? I had to do the math on that. I wasn't happy about that.
Something last year and during this conference and other conferences, our department, we just made a like shared folder, and then we made like a Google Doc for every session that we were going to. So then we just took notes. So then it's not just that one person who attended that one program kind of gets something out of it. It's everyone. And that was really helpful. And we were able to like drop in like PDFs that the presenters shared. And that was always really helpful because, you know, there's going to be several sessions that you're like, I want to go to all of them. And this kind of lets you do that.
Thanks, Kelsey. Anyone else? Tips and tricks that maybe you've utilized over the past 22 months when it comes to virtual conferences?
Snacks are your best friend. Snacks and water, snacks and water.
Yeah, we don't get that with the in-person like snack table or beverage table. So sometimes we don't remember that at our own desks.
It helps me is just to change the environment. Like, I mean, if you're in your office and that's your normal work environment, your mind's going to have a hard time just focusing on that one thing. So you find some other little conference room or something, and if you have a laptop or another computer, just changing the environment can be really helpful.
Thanks, Matthew. I find myself making sure that I'm set up in a comfy position. Usually in-person conferences, you're going room to room. And the chairs sometimes at those in-person conferences aren't as comfy as your desk chairs back at your office or your home office, depending on where you're working. So it is easy to get comfortable, but also remember, take those breaks in between. Like if you get a gap in between sessions, stretch, take the moment to get up, walk around a little bit. We would have got that at the in-person conferences. Sometimes we forget about the virtual world where we're just stuck at the screen for a full day. And it can get away from you. It's quickly how much 7 hours can fly by. Not saying that this would be 7 hours. There's definitely breaks built in and a lunch. So we would have that time.
I'm excited for the first conference that's like fully like VR, like, you know, we'll all put on our headsets. I'm waiting for that conference.
Yeah, I want one of those. That sounds great. Actually, I just want one in person. Like I'm done with the online. Can we just real talk? I don't want an online conference. I want to be in person. I want to be able to, you know, I don't know, wave in person or shake hands if people want to. I don't know. It's just longing for that human interaction that's in person.
Yeah, and it's important to acknowledge, like, this is one of the reasons why the board did make a decision to shrink it down a little bit, is 3 days on Zoom is a lot right now. And to spread it out with the New to Northwest, the Affinity Social on the 28th, the one day on the 1st, and then that business meeting on the 14th, you know, it spreads it out a little bit. So we're not stuck at the screen for 3 days in a row for full days.
I think it's an interesting time because obviously we've learned a lot of how to do things better virtually, which of course addresses like equity and access. I mean, you know, just I love in person like anybody else, but I just I don't know, it's just an interesting, yeah, how do we balance it out? I actually went to an in-person conference in October and they tried to mix virtual and in-person and it was very messy. It was very messy. And like the people who are online really had a hard time engaging with the people there. And so, you know, they tried, but it's, I don't know, it's an interesting, I don't know, like, you know, the realities of just like flashing back. Yeah, I don't know. It's just an interesting time to, I don't know, explore those concepts. I just worry about, you know, I agree with you, Bob, but that sentiment sometimes I hear in other groups as well, is just, yeah, it's almost like just, it's interpreted as being like, you know, I hate this and let's just get back to being in person, when that's not necessarily the solution either. So
Totally. I mean, it's important to make the most of what we can do. I mean, 100% agree with that. It's yeah. I agree, yeah.
Bob and Ben, I know you weren't here at the start, so do you want to introduce yourselves as well? We kind of jumped into a little
I
bit
like
of
jumped in with no introductions.
Yeah, it's okay.
My name is Bob Lambert. I use he, him pronouns. I'm manager of resident services at Mount Royal, also the past president of Northwest NWACUHO. So my term's up in like T-minus a month. So that's both exciting, and I need to figure out what I'm going to do with more of my time, which is probably parenting my 7-month-old. But it's been a great 3 years. Not the 3 years I would have expected, but I've enjoyed it. That's for sure.
And I'm Ben Medeiros. I use he, him, his pronouns. I work at Oregon State University, and I have been serving as the corporate relations director for the last 2 years. And my term is also coming up. And while I have loved my time, also not what I expected at all. And I know all the things way too well about how I'm going to use my time, because there's a lot to keep me busy here.
Thank you, Bob and Ben. And Ben, just so you know, you kind of jumped in a little bit through the conversation, but we're just talking about tips and tricks that you've gathered through the past 2 years attending virtual conferences. So I know there was some conversations about changing your working environment on where you attend that virtual conferences. If you spend a lot of time in your office, switching to small meeting rooms, Matthew brought that up. A little bit about having snacks and water available because we don't have that snack table that might be available at the in-person conference. Bob brought that up. And I know there's a lot of other great tips and tricks, but anything that maybe you've picked up over the past 2 years, Ben?
I don't know if I have anything specific. I think one of the things that, for me, like whether a conference is in person or virtual, I tend not to be someone who's like really comfortable in front of a big group of people, right? So I have tried at a conference to like make individual connections. And sometimes that can be difficult, right? Like it can be difficult in person as well, but it's a little bit more difficult to do virtually. But I've, you know, in general, like look for those things that give me commonality, or things that I can comment or share, or that, you know, ways to sort of invite that individual interaction. And sometimes that's not always unmuting myself and speaking up in a session. Sometimes that's, you know, like chatting, or, you know, on a sidebar, those sorts of things. That's something I've tried to do. I think you know, taking advantage of those opportunities too for this, like the various socials. I've appreciated like last year's identity social. You know, there were breakout rooms, which I appreciated because I personally thrive and appreciate that small group setting. Again, a little bit more manageable for me and maybe my own anxiety. So for me, taking advantage of those spaces are the things that I've personally found helpful.
Thanks for sharing, Ben. We talked a little bit about the connection. I'm not going to go back to the PowerPoint because I like seeing everyone on screen, not in the small tiny boxes that I don't often see. But similar to in person, this conference will also have an opportunity to connect with exhibitors or sponsors. And that's still an important aspect of these conferences that exist in the virtual world. So when the schedule gets released, it will highlight that opportunity to connect with our sponsors. And it's a really great opportunity, not just for senior housing officers to connect with these individuals, but everyone to connect with these individuals. to know the companies and other organizations that are sponsoring the association and build those relationships from the get-go. In my own experience, am not a senior housing officer. I'm more of a mid-level, advancing level professional, but I still use this opportunity to connect with the sponsors and exhibitors, because these could be individuals and contacts that I am talking to in the future. Or, that if it happens, it could also be opportunities that lie outside of the housing field for the next step. I do know a lot of companies like eRes Life and StarRes do hire a lot of housing professionals. So building those relationships isn't also a bad idea either if you're looking to mix it up in the future, or colleagues looking to mix it up in the future for job opportunities. So you never know where those connections might come into play, and building them early is a really great resource bank to have for US professionals.
I really appreciate that, Nathan. I think for our corporate membership too, they value those individual relationships as well. And that's the number one thing that they talk about that they want from the conference when we're, even virtual. Of course, they want to be in person as well, at times, but and they echo exactly what you just said, Nathan, like regardless of your level. And I think that's something to remind ourselves. And I shared, like my personal experience with just anxiety, with just, all the people. But sometimes it's that one-on-one piece that does make it more manageable. And like for the conference, we're gonna have that space. And when the schedule is released this year, it'll be time where it'll be in Zoom, but you can go to the individual breakout rooms. You'll be able to move yourself through that space. And we're hoping to provide a time where there won't be other things going on. So hopefully it'll promote a little more interaction between our corporate members and our institutional members.
Thanks, Ben. And I know Kelsey added a little bit in the chat too. Okay, we talked a lot about during the conference, and this is a unique conference because we have the Affinity Social and the New to Northwest sessions happening prior to the main kind of conference. We have the business meeting happening later on in March as another component of this conference. But there's also other things that we can take away for after the conference. And this is really for all members of Northwest is the committee opportunities that are available in the association. I use the opportunity to highlight some of the work that Becca is doing in the professional development committee, because I get to work closely with Becca on this as well. Is we get to work on sessions like these, the stuff that takes place outside of the conferences that continues the educational opportunities for the membership. And I know Kelsey has some experience as well, working with communications, right, Kelsey? Yes, I got that right. We have the diversity and inclusion committee, and then also the membership engagement committee. So that is an opportunity for individuals to get involved outside of the conference, continue that engagement with the association, and then also is a potential stepping stone for the board as well, because there is board positions. And I know that they are also available. I selfishly put that plug in now, and hopefully anyone watching this recording later also considers those opportunities to join the board or committees. It is on the registration form if you're interested in committees, so I encourage, if you haven't registered yet, first register. It's so important to attend this free conference, super exciting. And it does highlight if you have interest for any of the committees as well. Kelsey or Rebecca, do you want to talk anything about your experience with the committees, or anything you want to share for the group or anyone who watches the recording later?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll say, like, the committees are very challenged by choice, which can be really great because when people kind of need a breather and need to step back, that's like absolutely an option. I've also like been on committees where like people have been in like a very active mode and we've gotten to get like a lot of really cool stuff done. And so I think my big thing that I would say to folks is like, even if you're like not really 100% sure what your time is looking like in the next few months, but like you're interested, you're just not really sure what level of your commitment is, I would say absolutely do it. Because worst case, you receive the emails a few times a month and you say like, listen, I'm sorry, like I'm just not there right now. But like best case, you have some time and you're able to kind of participate and share some ideas. So it's nice because yeah, it's a very kind of graded level of like when you're able to participate and when you kind of need to step back.
Yeah, I would definitely like echo that. I was on the diversity and inclusion committee before I joined the board for a couple of years. And I think our committees are really understanding about where we're all coming from, especially housing and COVID. That's like 90% of our jobs now. So I really enjoyed the like take on what you can and help out when you're able. And there were so many things that a lot of people were like, yeah, I want to help out. Like I have a couple of minutes or like I have an hour every week. And that was really nice. And it's really, it can be validating and just a really good sounding board and just a really great way to meet people from all over the region. I think it's been really nice to connect with folks who are outside of the institution that I work at and seeing kind of what's going on there. Let's see, I'm done with NWACUHO, like being on the board because I don't work for housing anymore. So like in a month, so that's sad. And I'll definitely miss like the committee work. And I mean, all of it, it's been wonderful. So really recommend getting involved in the committees if you're able to.
I appreciate that, Kelsey and Becca. So the conference itself is a great opportunity to start building those networks or reestablishing those relationships with those that you may not have had a chance to connect with in a while. And we've talked a little bit about after the conference because it should be a very holistic thing that you consider. It's not just a one-day thing. It's an opportunity to connect with colleagues throughout the association and continue that knowledge sharing throughout the year. But what are some other ways that you can get things from a virtual conference that has been meaningful for you? What are some takeaways, or what is the best thing you've seen from a virtual conference that you're like, that was really cool and I want to see more of that?
I think one of the like most interesting presentations whenever anybody's been able to harness like interactive technology with the session, like a Miro board, or I can't even remember what the Google version's called, but you know, and polls and stuff are kind of like the tier one, and then you know there's kind of, it builds up, and definitely whatever the presenters can do to help with engagement, I think obviously keeps the people from being distracted by their email as well. And so I think that's definitely, I've noticed some, I don't know if it was the organization that like coached the presenters to do a better job with that, or if it was just the natural, you know, whatever they're coming from. But yeah, that's definitely the other thing. The other, I can't remember what conference I was in, but they had kind of like a special group of people who maybe wanted to get more of an intense conference experience around a certain subject, and it was around design justice. Was it this conference or was it a different one? I don't remember. But anyways, maybe it was NASPA or larger ACUHO. Anyways, and so they partnered with one of their corporate partners to bring in their specialties into this design justice kind of workshop that was built into the conference. And so at the end of the conference, the people who are part of that were actually part of a session that then presented on to the rest of the conference attendees what they kind of worked on and learned. And so it was a really interesting interactive mix where you get those people who are really wanting that like full conference experience with that intense learning at the same time. So anyways, those are just two things that I've noticed have been really helpful.
Oh, thank you for that.
I think a big one for me is really like taking some time after a session to go back and review the resources that they give out. It can be really difficult sometimes to really like take those resources in during a presentation, especially if like you like really need to like auditorily pay attention to be able to process, or you know, one way or the other. And so I think just really like taking back and like looking at those and seeing how you can use them. Like one example that's been really helpful for me and that I'm like in the process of implementing with my staff is actually not from a conference, but from Kelsey's first Friday last month. Thinking about like personal self-care resources and like the ways that you're caring for yourself and stuff like that. And like, while that was something I really enjoyed doing in the moment, it was also like, and is proving to be more helpful as I'm like taking it back to my staff and like figuring out how to like implement it in kind of our regular like quarterly check-ins. And so I think just like really like figuring out how you can use that stuff, because like, well, yes, the conference is free when it's great. Like this is still something you're dedicating your time to. And so you want to make sure that you're like bringing as much out of that as you can to like make that meaningful for you.
Thanks, Becca.
One of the biggest challenges I have with an in-person conference is that there's often so many programming sessions that I want to attend. And you can kind of divide and conquer with colleagues, but I think one of the biggest benefits of a virtual conference is, well, for NWACUHO at least, is we have the option to listen to sessions after the conference has taken place. And so like, you don't miss anything. You can absolutely see every session you want to, which is incredible because you don't miss anything. So that's something I have enjoyed doing with my virtual conferences that I've attended, is being able to go back and watch the presentations I couldn't be at.
Thanks, Bob. And if I could build on that, is also making that time in your schedule to go back. I've had a few conferences where they said it's going to be recorded. I'm like, I'm fully attended to watch it, and then it just gets away from me.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I think similarly, you have the ability to go back to the same presentation. There was a presentation that I went back to. I don't think it was from our conference, but I think one of I think it was the NWACUHO conference or the summer, where there was an idea shared and a thought shared that I wanted to make sure that I captured it well in bringing that forward to our unit, our department. So like, I think that's another really useful takeaway. That's a benefit of having that virtual resource.
Thanks, Ben. Any other tips, tricks, opportunities from virtual conferences? Okay. I did bring the disclaimer at the start of this session that I don't think I have an hour's worth of content, and that is okay, because the main purpose of this was to really start, one, we're promoting the conference, and it is a free conference for all members of Northwest. Registration can be found on the website. I've put the link in the chat. I'm guilty of it. I sat on the board, still sit on the board, not sat on the board, still sit on the board, and have not registered myself. So as I was making sure I was doing, I know, Kelsey, I know, I need to get on that. So it is free, and it's important to make sure to sign up for this opportunity. Again, if you know colleagues who are new to Northwest or would be interested in the Affinity Social, it is on, they're both on February 28th. Do encourage that individuals attend that. And don't forget, just because the conference happens on the 1st, there's still stuff after. There is that social event and there is the business meeting. So there's opportunities for the coming weeks to not only just get a set amount of time engaged with Northwest, but it's spread out through a few different days. So really building that opportunity to your calendars now if you can, so that you can have the undivided attention towards Northwest. And as again, the learning doesn't stop here with the conference. The committee work is such a rewarding and fun experience to network with some amazing people. So consider to participate in that as well. If you know colleagues who couldn't make today, I encourage that you share this information with them as well. Any questions? Awesome.
Thanks, Dave. Nice job.
It is this group of individuals that makes this first Friday so easy. There is opportunities in the future. If you're interested in presenting a First Friday webinar, I know that the Professional Development Committee is always looking for presenters, whether that is a past presentation that you may have done yourself or one that you're interested in doing moving forward. And again, always happy to take questions. The board is always happy to take questions. So if you think of anything after, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. We're always happy to chat. So, am I forgetting anything, Becca?
No, you're great. Thank you, everyone. Same as always, the link will be posted on the YouTube here later today, or however long it takes Zoom to cooperate. We will not be doing March 1st Friday, as we often don't, just because it's immediately following the conference, and that's just a lot for everyone. So if you're interested in presenting April or afterwards, just let us know. Thanks, y'all. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thanks,
Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.